Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our Student in the Workplace virtual connection for this morning. My name is Ann. I work for the Northwest Tri-County Intermediate Unit, and we are offering these sessions in conjunction with Northwest PA Job Connect. So we're very happy to have their support throughout our entire series. So welcome if this is your first time joining us. Welcome back if you're joining us for the second, third, or fourth time as we've gone through the series. Today we have Jocelyn Stahl with us. She's the Senior Director, Manufacturing Alliances at the Hershey Company. She's going to explain to us what that means, who she is, what she does. Before we get started with that, I just want to direct your attention to our live Q&A option. For most of you, you'll work your way up to the right-hand corner of your screen. You'll see a little text bubble or a thought bubble with a question mark in it. Should you want to submit questions, you can click on that and submit them at any time. I will make sure that we have plenty of time left at the end for Jocelyn to answer any questions that you might have. So feel free to submit them and we will definitely address them by the end of our session today. So without further ado, I'm going to send Jocelyn live.
Good morning.
Good morning, Jocelyn. Thank you for taking time out of your day to spend a half hour with us answering questions and telling us all about what you do.
Great. Well, thank you for having me this morning. Look forward to chatting with you and students.
Absolutely, our pleasure. So why don't you just start and tell everyone what you do, what your job is, and what the organization is that you work for. I imagine the word Hershey is ringing a bell with some of our friends out there, but why don't you tell everyone what you do?
Yeah, I don't know if you can see the background behind me, but that the Hershey Company, of course, many of you hopefully have heard of us. So, of course, we are Hershey Bar, Reese's Peanut Butter Cups, Kit Kat, Hershey Kisses. We also have some other brands that you might not know are affiliated with us, such as Skinny Pop Popcorn, Pirate's Booty. So in any event, Hershey Company is an $8 billion company. We consider ourselves a snacking powerhouse. We are the second largest snacking company in the United States, only second to Pepsi, who has the Frito-Lay brands. So we're very proud of the growth that we've had. We consider confection, so candy, if you will, a snack. In any event, I've been with Hershey for 13 years, and I lead what we call our Manufacturing Alliances organization. Manufacturing Alliances is manufacturing that Hershey does externally. So many of you, if you live in the Pennsylvania area, you might be familiar with Hershey Park, and of course, within Hershey, we have two Hershey-owned factories in Hershey, Pennsylvania. There's one in Hazleton, Pennsylvania. There's one in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. What I manage are the non-owned Hershey factories. So essentially, when we use another company to produce candy for us, because we don't have the capability within our factory. And so we utilize what we call suppliers or a vendor to produce candy for us, and I have a team that manages them. Because they're making finished product for us and we are selling it, it's very important that they have the same standards and quality as us. And so we spend a lot of time with them, just like we would if they were owned by us and part of our plant. So we manage about 25 to 30% of Hershey's production in our area. And so we have a number of relationships throughout the United States. Most of them are in the United States, and my team manages that. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. And like we were saying before we started, folks out there might not necessarily understand by looking at your title what it is that you do. So I appreciate you taking the time to key us in. So now that we have the idea of what your job is, can we drill down into maybe a typical day? And so what does a typical day look like for you? Where do you spend a lot of your time, and how do you spend your time on what those primary responsibilities are?
Yeah, great question. So, I'm sure you all know with COVID, many of our typical days are different now than they would typically be, right? So for me and my team, I don't necessarily have a typical day. I manage over 50 factories. And so on a given day, I could be visiting one of those factories somewhere in the United States with my team. So that typical day would be visiting the factory, walking through the facility, getting to know the operations, the employees, the technologies. Then days that I'm in the office, a typical day would consist of a number of meetings to focus on new products that we might be looking to launch a new product in the marketplace, or focused on improving how we're doing something. So an existing item, I have a number of discussions throughout my day and week with my team and giving them coaching and feedback as their leader. And of course, I participate on broader supply chain. So supply chain within Hershey is, we have our sales organization, we have our marketing organization, we have supply chain. Supply chain includes buying of raw materials and the packaging. It includes the manufacturing, it includes warehousing, and then it includes transportation. So essentially all the truckloads of product that go out to our customers. So I participate on our supply chain leadership team. So there's a number of times throughout the week where I'll engage with our senior leadership team in developing strategies for how we can best get the best quality product to our consumers. So when you go to your grocery store or onto Amazon or into Walmart or Target, our product is available for you. And when you open that product, it's the quality that you expect. So my typical day now is a little bit more remote. So right now, many of us at the corporate level, right now I'm sitting at home in my home office, but typically my office is in Hershey, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, I think we're all adapting to those changes. Yeah. And I appreciate you. It sounds like you wear a lot of hats, and that's a common theme that we're hearing among a lot of our conversations within this series, is that there are a lot of jobs out there where you're going to have multiple responsibilities, and you're not going to be doing the same thing day in and day out. You're going to be asked to do a lot of different things, and every day is going to look different. So we're learning that as we go on, that's definitely the case with a lot of jobs. And so when you think about your actual responsibilities, I want to ask, what are some of those kind of career essential skills, like the soft skills, that you feel like are really necessary for you to be successful at your job?
Absolutely, great question. So for me, when I'm looking to hire someone, or even for my role, it's really all about, are you curious? Are you inquisitive? Do you have analytical capabilities and an understanding of looking at a complex situation and making it pretty simple? So, I think Albert Einstein said that if you can't explain something, you don't understand it, right? And so in our roles, it's really important for us to take all this complexity that nobody understands and whittle it down to what's very simple and what do we need to do. And so in my role, my responsibility is obviously empowering and coaching my team so that they can be the best that they are every day. But what I look for in them is, many of them, I like that they have a technical background. We are in manufacturing processing, so it is important that many of them have engineering backgrounds. I have a chemistry background, so many of them are coming from some type of technical background. Some of them have come up the ranks through, started as a mechanic and kind of worked their way up through the manufacturing organization, but they understand the technologies. And so then the soft skills that we're looking for, there's leadership, communication, analytics. Are they curious? Do they want to constantly learn? And constantly challenge the status quo, because if you think about it, Milton Hershey established our company 150 years ago. And if we continued to do things the way Milton Hershey did, our technology would be obsolete, right? And so Milton Hershey was a genius in his time, where he had the ability to create, a factory to automate, to the best of his ability back then, the manufacturing of chocolate. And we've continued to optimize that and make it better and better and more efficient to meet the needs of consumers. So that's really what we look for from a talent perspective.
Yeah, and a great point about how businesses constantly have to adapt with the times. And certainly if we, like you said, over 100 years ago, things were very different, and things are constantly changing, and probably changing even faster now, most certainly. So you spoke a little bit to how some folks in your company have made their way up from being a mechanic to and work their way up. But can you tell us a little bit about your career journey and how you got to where you are, and maybe starting all the way back with your education and how you made it here today?
Yeah, so when I was in high school, I never heard of anything supply chain related. I didn't know that roles, like, I never thought about it. I never thought about how, whether it's a pharmaceutical product or, anything makes it to market. So I never thought about that. So I loved chemistry in high school. I loved my chemistry teacher. I loved the subject. I was good at it. And so I decided to go to college for chemistry. So I graduated from Elko High School, which is in Lebanon County. And then I went to Villanova University, which is outside of Philadelphia. I majored in chemistry. I was one of 3 women in my graduating class in chemistry, so it was very much mostly men. I learned at that point in my career how to navigate through an industry that is predominantly men. I did that through college, so when I entered the workforce in the technical community and it was predominantly men, I was pretty used to it. I didn't really think anything of it. It was normal. And so I graduated from Villanova in chemistry. I then worked for a pharmaceutical company in their laboratory testing incoming raw materials, so the raw materials that they would use to make the pharmaceutical product. I did that for a couple of years. And then I made the transition from doing that into working in a pharmaceutical factory, where I spent time in the factory working in quality assurance, essentially walking around and doing the technical checks within the facility. And then over time, I transitioned into the business side, where I took those analytical skills and my chemistry background and my quality background, and I transitioned into the business, where I entered into supply chain type roles of managing procurement, which what procurement is procurement is buying. So I went into a buyer role of buying packaging and raw materials for the pharmaceutical industry, and held a variety of roles. At that point, I transitioned to the Hershey company as a buyer. Been with Hershey 13 years and held a variety of roles within Hershey, both in the procurement space, so buying lots of different things. I bought anything from advertising services and commercials to now I'm buying manufacturing. My team is buying manufacturing, to buying packaging, which is essentially Hershey bar wrappers. And so, as you can see, the journey was not necessarily well defined when I was 18 years old and I went to college, but the skills that I developed through that journey have just allowed me to continue to grow in areas that I didn't know existed back in, the 90s when I was going through my education.
Yeah, and another common theme that we've seen is that sometimes you just don't know what you don't know as far as what jobs are out there, and it's hard to know every job that exists. It's probably impossible to know that. And so that's definitely something else we've been learning along the way as we have these conversations. And I want to circle back to something you said at the beginning of this answer that I really appreciated. And so if you had advice for young females out there who wanted to pursue the STEM field, just really quickly, would you have any bits of advice for them as someone who did it?
Yeah, my daughter's 18 and she's going into the STEM field, so hopefully that answers your question. But I think there's, number one, a lack of women in the technical communities. I think that's getting much better as, more and more young women are entering into the STEM field. But again, I think that a business degree is excellent and can open lots of doors for you, and you can learn a lot of the fundamentals of business. But I also think that a technical background with some business training can be equally beneficial, particularly in some fields such as supply chain or some of the fields that I've spent time in. And my vice president is a female. I'm a female. I have a number of females on my team. Our CEO at the Hershey company is a female. She went to a Pennsylvania college. She went to Shippensburg University. So, I certainly think that the world is different now. But certainly I would encourage young women, if they're interested in the sciences or the STEM field, to go for it. And there's no reason why you can't be successful and thrive in that environment as well. For me, back when I was in college, it was more of an anomaly.
Yeah, and I appreciate you sharing that. And it's definitely changing. And And I just appreciate you going back and answering that, because I think always an important message to hear, right? So if you
can I just add one thing? I would also encourage not just females, but also diverse candidates. So if you have a diverse background, you know, I think that the STEM field has a lot to offer, and it's an area where, you know, we don't have a lot of diversity, and we are looking for diversity. You know, in our hiring decisions, we are looking for the best candidate, but we're also seeking out a level of diversity so that we have thought leadership diversity. So if you happen to be someone that has a diverse background, I would encourage you also to consider the STEM field. So sorry to cut you off, but I wanted to add that to the comment.
Oh, no problem. I'm glad you did cut me off, because I'm glad that you added that, and another important message to hear as well. So thank you for that. Now you've talked about how you do sort of manage and you lead a team. Can you talk about, in your eyes, what you think makes a good leader or manager?
So I think a good leader or manager, number one, gets to know each of their employees and what is important to them. So essentially taking the time to develop those personal relationships, understand where people are in their life and their career, and how you can individually support them. So I think the best leaders are able to adapt their leadership style to each individual based on their needs. I also think a good leader can inspire others. So essentially inspiring a team, connecting the bigger picture to the employees and helping them. And then finally, removing barriers. So, you know, it's not my goal to tell my employees what to do and how to do it. They're smart people. They're all very talented. My goal is to remove barriers for them. So as they're working on challenges and looking for solutions, it's my goal to connect with them, understand where they're at, inspire them. And then when they hit a barrier, to go and remove that barrier or help them to remove it, and to give them some direction.
Yeah, and I think all really, really great points when it comes to how to lead and how to manage, and maybe not necessarily skills that we're thinking about when we're younger, but skills that are important, especially as you want to move up in your career, whatever it might be. So thank you for sharing those tips with our students. I'm going to go into a couple of questions now. Can you talk about what you feel like your favorite thing is about your job, or do you have a really cool story or just something that you really enjoy?
Yeah, so my favorite thing with my job is helping talent to develop and pushing people to do things that they never thought was possible, and then affording people the opportunity to receive promotions. So my favorite days are the days when I can tell somebody that they've been promoted, and I've been fortunate enough to be able to get a lot of opportunities to do that to both men and women, diverse, non-diverse candidates. And it's just so rewarding to me because they've earned it, but I know I played a piece in that. And so making candy is awesome. I mean, I'm literally in the best industry. Who doesn't like candy, right? So every day I know I wake up and I make people happy by the products that I make. But from my employees and my role, my favorite days are days when I can give people new opportunities.
Yeah, and I can absolutely see why that would be a really positive and great thing to experience, because you're helping people and helping them grow. So yeah. Absolutely. Now, do you have pieces of your job that maybe aren't so much your favorite, or what do you dislike about your job?
Yeah, that's a good question. I actually love what I'm doing, and I've loved my last several roles. I mean, there were some roles earlier in my career where it wasn't exactly the right fit for me, and I would imagine that anybody that's held a variety of roles in their career would probably say that. I think it's important to make sure that as you develop your career, you're not chasing more money. You're chasing the role that inspires you to get up every morning and, you know, excited to jump into it. So I can't think of a whole lot of things I don't like. I'd say maybe there's some paperwork that I need to do, things like approving expense report and some more tactical administrative work that is not really aligned with what I love to do. But probably in previous roles, I was more, I served as a quality person. I think I talked about that, where, I was responsible for the quality of a manufacturing facility. Well, that role included that I had to do a lot of review of paperwork. So essentially I was grading the paperwork in the plant to make sure that they did all of the correct things that they needed to do. And that was very detail oriented, probably not aligned best with my skill set. But I recognized the importance of the role and what I learned through that. But yeah, I think, I think that's probably the best way for me to answer that.
Yeah, and I think we've heard that answer before too, that sometimes the admin side of things or the paperwork side of things, it's not the reason why you went into the field that you went into, or it's not necessarily where your passions lie in the job that you work in, but probably necessary across the board in a lot of jobs, that we all might have that aspect of documentation or something along those lines that, we got to do it for what we're doing.
Absolutely, and every single role has that, whether you're a doctor, physician, a CEO of a company. Every role has that, and it's it's a requirement in anything we do. So whether we like it or not, we have to be good at it because it is important.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Every role, everything you listed, I think anything you want to do, it's going to be a part of that. So can you?
Each part,
right, right, everything. Yeah. The list goes on for sure. Can you speak to? This is just a fun question. What is your favorite Hershey product that you either get to work with or maybe just in general?
Yeah, so great question. So I'm going to give you two answers, and they're two totally opposites of the spectrum. So Reese's, we came out with what's called Reese's Thins, and if you haven't tried it, please go try it. My team actually manufactures Reese's Thins. They are fantastic. So I am a Reese fan, but Reese's Thin are just absolutely perfect. Love them. The other one is Skinny Pop. So that's on the board behind me. Skinny Pop is a low-calorie popcorn. And so while I've been home with my family in quarantine, I've been trying to watch my caloric count because I'm not moving around real much. I'm sitting here a lot. And so I can eat a lot of Skinny Pop and not feel guilty. So Reese's, I have to, a little bit of moderation, but Skinny Pop, I don't need to moderate. So those would be my two favorite. And then of course the Hershey bar. I mean, that's our founding father and, our namesake. So, I'm pretty loyal to the Hershey bar as well.
Well, I'm a Reese's fan, so you're making me want to go out and try the Thins now that I know.
Give it a try.
Thanks for the tip.
Yeah, they're only sold in like a bag. You can't buy them individually like you'd buy a regular Reese's cup. So you'd have to look in the candy aisle at your local store.
Okay, good to know. Well, as we're kind of wrapping up our time together, Jocelyn, I want to give you time to answer what is our question that we kind of end all of our sessions with. So I want to give you time to answer that. We have had obviously a lot of high schoolers on these calls and a lot who are watching them afterwards. So for those who are getting ready to graduate, so our seniors out there, what piece of advice do you have for them as they're trying to figure out what comes next and navigate all of the choices that are in front of them?
Yeah, so obviously you're very young, and I wouldn't be scared that you pick the wrong field, because I chose chemistry and now I'm managing manufacturing. So I think if you're continuously learning in an area that interests you and you like, and you wake up every day excited about what you're doing, I think that's something that I would highly ask you to consider. The other thing that I tell people all the time is if you're comfortable with whatever you're doing, then you're probably not learning. So make yourself a little uncomfortable, right? If you have that pit in your stomach because it's hard or it scares you, now it can't be an uncomfortable pit that you have massive levels of anxiety, but just that little pit where you're like, ooh, I don't know, that's where you need to go. And if you somebody offers you a role or an opportunity or a new class in college or in trade school or in the military or whatever it is, that just gives you that little pause because you're just not sure you can do it, I bet you can. And so, push yourself. I've been in that situation a lot. I'm there right now in my current role. There are things about it that scare me, and those are the things that excite me, and the areas where I have the most rapid growth in my development.
Yeah, and what great advice that it's okay to be uncomfortable. I think we all can struggle with that at times, student or adult, right?
Yeah. Yep. I think it's important for students to know that. I'm a grown adult. I've been in the workforce
definitely
for 25 years. I have college age kids, and I'm nervous, and we all are, about different things, and that's okay. And you just keep pushing yourself, and before you know it, what you were once nervous about is like, oh, that was nothing, and so then you just move on.
Yeah, exactly. You're right. It is important for them to know that. And I thank you for making that point, because you're absolutely right. And so for those watching and anybody watching later, we've all been uncomfortable in our jobs and in various responsibilities in our life. So Jocelyn, as we wrap up here, is there anything else you'd like to leave our students with? Anything about your job you'd love for them to know, or any last words?
Yeah, no, obviously I think that, again, I think you need to follow your passion and make sure that, you're aligning whatever you're doing with what you enjoy doing, whether it's with a large company like Hershey, a small company, or, working in education or healthcare, whatever it is that you love to do. Make sure that that's where you're aligning your time and energy. And whether that's secondary, college, it's not for everybody, and it doesn't have to be for everybody. We have thousands and thousands of jobs at the Hershey Company that are really, really great jobs that didn't include college, and we have some really great jobs that require a college education. And so it's really based on what the right fit for you is.
Yeah, and one of the things we're trying to communicate through this series is exactly that. So there are jobs out there for a variety of different educational pathways, and so I'm happy to hear where you work. There are both, and all kinds of different on-ramps for things. So Jocelyn, I just want to say thank you so much for spending the last half hour with us, telling us all about what you do, the company that you work for, and just about your personal career journey as well. So a very big thank you to you and to everyone out there who's on the call as well for joining us. Just as a final piece, we always ask that you keep an eye on our website. That's where you can see all of our links to our upcoming sessions, which we have going on through the middle of December. So I hope everyone out there has a great Friday and a great weekend. And once again, thank you, Jocelyn.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure talking to you. Thank you. And good luck to all of you students as you navigate your next steps. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay. Bye-bye.